Hello there, you beautiful people. So we're now officially kicking off the second project of this course, the Hello You program. In this lecture, we're going to start off, as usual, by creating our script, and then we're going to learn how to use Python comments to structure our code and help us plan what we want to do, which is a great practice for big projects like this one. After that, we're going to get our program to be able to ask questions, and then when it gets answers to those questions, to store the answers in variables with appropriate names. So by the end of this video, you're going to know how to get user input in Python and how to store that input in variables, which is an incredibly valuable skill, and it's used for so many things, like I said before. As an added bonus, you're also going to learn how to look up functions for yourself, which will improve your independence as a programmer, and you're going to learn how to write out a plan for your code using Python comments, which is going to make programming much easier for you and everyone else you work with on big projects in the future. So let's get cracking, shall we? Alright, so the first thing we're going to want to do is to create our new script. So I'm going to go at the top here, File, New File, and when I'm here, I'm going to save this on the desktop in the Python Bible folder as hello_u.py. Brilliant. So now let me maximize that and we should be all good to go. So the first thing we're going to really want to do in this project is to write an outline for our code. Writing an outline helps you stay on track with what you're doing and basically serves as a checklist for your code, because when you're programming, there's so much stuff going on, it's really easy to get lost. So the way that we're going to write this checklist is using Python comments. Comments are things you can write in your code that don't get interpreted by the Python shell. They're basically just notes for yourself and other programmers who see your code, but Python won't touch them at all. So let's see an example. The first thing we want to do in this project is to ask the user their name. So to create a comment, we use the hash symbol. And you can immediately see that the text has gone red. This is Python telling us that it's a comment. Anything we write after this on this line will just be ignored by Python. So if I type hash and then write ask user for name, that would be a Python comment. Now if I just run this, you can see that nothing happens, right? And nothing happened because Python just ignored the comment. So comments are simply ignored by the code, but they're visible to people. So the thing that we want to do after that is ask the user for their age. So let's just type another comment, ask user for their age. Brilliant. After that, we're going to ask them where they live. Ask user for city. By the way, when I say user, I mean you, right? So we're going to ask them where they live or what their city is, and we're going to ask you what you enjoy doing. So ask user what they enjoy. All right. So that's that. And once we've got all this information, we're going to create the output text. This is going to be the sentence that's going to put all this stuff together. So create output text. And then we're going to print the output to the screen. Print output to screen. So hopefully you got a bit of an idea of how this is basically going to work. We're going to get some user input. We're going to do some processing on all that input and then output it to the screen. Fabulous. So this plan is going to allow us to write code in between here so we know exactly what to do next so we don't get distracted. Right, so if we follow our checklist, the first thing we need to do is ask the user for their name. So in order to do this, let's learn about the Python input function. Now, as a programmer, you're going to need to know how to look up functions for yourself, because I can't possibly teach you everything in this course. There's just way too much. So in the interest of helping you gain independence, I'm going to show you how to look up the input function in the Python docs. So to do that, let's go up here to the help bar here and click on Python docs. And you'll see a window like this pop up with a bunch of folders on the side. If you don't see this, then it may be possibly that you accidentally clicked hide up here, and to get it back, you'll see a button here that says show. Just click on that and it'll pop back up. Anyway, there's a bunch of folders in here, but the one that we're interested in for the minute is the Python standard library. If you click on that, you will see the Python standard library pop up on the right. Now, the good thing about the Python standard library is that everything in here is available to use straight out of the box. Before, when we used the random module or the math module, you had to write an import statement and then the module name, and then you had to do, to access the functions inside of it. You don't have to do that with the Python standard library. Everything here is built in and ready to go. So seeing as the input function is a function, we're going to look here at bullet point number 2 for built-in functions. Let's click on that. And we're going to see a table here of 68 items pop up. They're all in alphabetical order, and feel free to go and have a look at these if you wish. But seeing as we want the input function, I'm just going to click on input to link us to that. Now, Python always shows you how to use the function. It tells us that you type input, open a pair of brackets or parentheses, and then inside here you type a prompt. Now you can see here that there's some square angle brackets around prompt. What that means is that prompt is optional. You don't actually have to put one. But if you do put one, like in the example here, they wrote S equals input of some kind of arrow. The arrow popped up, and then the user typed in Monty Python's Flying Circus and pressed enter. When they pressed enter, Monty Python's Flying Circus was saved in S, as you can see here. So then when the shell was given S again, it gave out Monty Python's Flying Circus as a string. So this is important to note. Whatever the user responds to an input statement in Python 3, it's going to be saved as a string. So now that we've got that under our belt, let's head back over to the shell and ask the user for their name. Now, the way that we do this is we would type input, and then we need a prompt. So let's say we want a question such as, the very basic, what is your name? Okay, now I could just leave the string like that, but I'm actually going to put a colon and a space. And the reason for that is just to give the user a bit of space after the question to type in their stuff to make it look a bit nicer. But if I do that now, it'll work. What will happen is it'll run input, and I can say Ziad is my name. So that's fine, and you can see why I added the space here. So we've got a nice space for me to start. But the issue is we're not saving that data anywhere. We want to save the data in a variable called name. Now all we have to do to make that work is just type name equals input. What is your name? Now whatever the user enters here is going to be stored in name, and we can prove that by printing out name onto the screen. So if I type in, what is your name? Let's say I entered John. It's going to print out John now, which is excellent. We've managed to take user input and save it somewhere in our program. So as a micro challenge, I want you to go ahead and do the same for age. I want you to create a variable called age and set that using the input statement to whatever the user answers for a question such as, what is your age? So pause the video now and go ahead and create a variable called age and to get the user's age. So how'd you get on? Did you manage it? Well, here's how I'd have done it. I'd have just gone in here and typed age equals input of how old are you? And now when I run that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this print statement and I'm going to put that there, and I'm also going to print the age. So what's going to happen is, if I enter my name Ziad, and let's say I am 23, then it's going to say Ziad 23. So what's happened there, we've got two different inputs, and they are all saved in individual variables. Now, something I want to just prove to you. Let me print the type of age, and let me print the type of name. Now what you're going to see is that if I put my name, Ziad, and 23, you can see that they're both strings. I typed in 23, which you might think would be saved as an integer, but it's not. The input function always turns it to a string, which is something to keep in mind because it can trip you up later on. So as an extra micro challenge for you now that we've got all that working, let me just delete my print statements. I want you to create a variable called city, which is going to ask the user what city they live in. And I also want you to create a variable called love to ask the user what they love doing. So go ahead and pause the video now, create those variables using the input function, and come back to see how you did. How'd you get on? Hopefully it went all right. Here's exactly the way that I'd have done it. So I'd type in here city equals input what city do you live in? Like that. So we've got that, and I'm just going to copy and paste this just to save myself some time. Love equals input. What do you love doing? And that's that. So the user is going to get 4 questions to come up to them, and they are going to respond to them with specific answers. And these are going to be saved in certain variables that we can use in our code. Now, what we've got to do next, which we're going to do in another video, is to combine these answers together to create a sentence. So I'm going to leave that for the next video because this one's getting quite long. So I'll see you in the next video to finish off the Hello You project.